Jackson. Today I'm bringing you a retro movie review, and today's pick is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the original 1971 classic based off of Roald Dahl's book. The film starring Gene Wilder is a story that most people are familiar with. Five children win gold tickets to a chocolate factory long since closed down to the public, and the winning child of such will gain control of Willy Wonka's factory. I think most people are familiar with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the 2005 remake of the film, starring Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka, as most people grew up with that one who are around my age. But the original focuses more directly on the novel written by Roald Dahl, and the remake takes some changes in order to freshen up the story, different from Willy Wonka. But the original succeeded relatively with a low budget of only $3 million in 1971, which is still not a lot of money, especially for a film that relies a lot on the extravagant sets of the chocolate factory, all the edible food that comes with that, the chocolate river, all these special things. So the main draw of this movie is Gene Wilder and his performance as Willy Wonka, who is just an electric presence, but carries with him a lot of sarcasm.
My chocolate! My beautiful chocolate!
Don't just stand there, do something!
Help. Police. Murder.
And his first scene really sells his character, where he comes out of the chocolate factory for the first time in decades, and he's walking with a limp, with a cane. Right before he gets to the gate, he puts his cane down, does a little tuck and roll up onto his feet, so immediately you don't know whether to trust this man. Anything he say can be completely true or complete lie. And you kind of see that with like the different elements with the Oompa Loompas and such. Where did these people come from? How did he acquire them? It's never really made clear because he's such a different and odd personality. So the film originally was written by Roald Dahl, the screenplay by the author of the book, but the studio hired an uncredited screenwriter, David Seltzer, to rework the screenplay. They added a bunch of musical sequences. Some of the more prominent songs, the Gene Wilder Imagination song. There's the I Want It Now song by Violet Beauregard. Oh no, it's a song by Veruca Salt, The Spoiled Child, when she falls down the little tube into the egg machine. There's Grandpa Joe's song when he gets up after 20 years of being in the bed after he can go to the factory, the old selfish Grandpa Joe. And the movie has a very distinct, sarcastic sense of humor that can be found from really the very opening of the film. I think most people, when they remember this movie, only remember the factory elements, but it actually takes a lot longer of the 100-minute running time for them to actually get into the factory. There's a lot of just quick little scenes of people like reacting to the whole Wonka bar rush and the real world applications of that. Like, there's one lady whose husband isn't kidnapped, and the ransom for that is her box of Wonka bars, which may or may not contain the golden ticket. And like, she asked for time to think it over. So it's just kind of these little sarcastic, nuanced pieces of comedy that are thrown in at the beginning to make the world a bit bigger, but also just to give some pieces of comedy as the story continues to develop for Charlie. And I think that's really the major selling point when I look at the early parts, is that Charlie's character is very consistent with himself. We see his poor upbringing, and even as the contest starts, he can only afford to get 2 Wonka bars, including one that he actually gets for his birthday. Meanwhile, other people in his class have bought like 150 tons of Wonka bars, but Charlie shows his honesty when he's asked, because easily he could have lied and say he bought 50 Wonka bars, 75 Wonka bars, but no, he says he only bought 2 because he's only open 2. And that's a great piece of foreshadowing for his decision at the end of the movie, where the other 4 children with their selfish intentions and character flaws are all taken out by the factory. Charlie at the end shows his honesty and shows his integrity when they admit that they had been stealing the fizzy lifting drinks and leaving Wonka the everlasting gobstopper at the end, despite the fact that he could have sold it to Slugworth for millions. Charlie makes the right decision because that's the person who he is, and in the end he is rewarded with the factory as being the good and honest child. The Wonka is a bit lucky though in this random drawing that he drew 1 good children and the other 4 being completely terrible people, but hey, that's what that will happen in a movie like this. But easily one of my favorite I'd say pre-digital films. It's always nice to see when you watch an old movie and the color is by Technicolor, so it's a little bit of richness of the classic old school film. The movie feels like has sort of like a British humor feel, even though it's made by American people and shot in Germany. But again, the sarcastic, dry humor is a aspect of that. So, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it is on Netflix. I would highly encourage a full rewatch. I don't think many people have seen the whole thing, but people are familiar with some of the more standout sequences and relating it to the remake of 2005 by Tim Burton. So, I would definitely encourage a full rewatch. It's quick. It's an hour and 40 minutes. Doesn't take too much time, and it's just an enjoyable movie with a lot of heart, a lot of soul, and it really can be enjoyed by anyone of any age. So, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, I would highly recommend, and hope that you give it a watch.